Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. It's time for your daily dose of some fragrance content. But today, instead of thinking about fancy topics and fancy video names, I decided to randomly pick 6 good clones and cheap fragrances from my collection, and I'm going to show them all to you today. The first fragrance that I've prepared for today comes from the brand of Paris Corner, and it's called Virilis. It comes in this sort of an ambery colored bottle, and this fragrance, for those who don't know, is inspired by none other than Jean-Paul Gaultier's Le Mans Elixir. But here I think inspiration is the right word to describe how this smells. It smells in a way very similar to Le Mans Elixir, but at the same time smells quite different. This is like a more fruity and not more, but basically a fruity and slightly boozy take on the original scent of Le Mans Elixir. Le Mans Elixir has a lot of sweetness, a lot of honey sweetness, it has a lot of tobacco, it has some freshness in the opening, a slight hint of freshness. Virilis basically gets rid of the honey note. Instead, it uses a combination of different notes that come across somewhat fruity. I think there's a bit of some pineapple note in here, there's some other fruity sweetness, you get a bit of ambery sweetness, you get a bit of the tobacco as well, but also you get a bit of booziness, especially in the opening. Now in the air this smells in a way similar to Le Mans Elixir, but especially up close and especially in the opening it's quite different. But at the same time, people who are familiar with the scent of Le Mans Elixir will immediately recognize that Virilis has been inspired by the Jean-Paul Gaultier fragrance. Quality is good here, performance is very good, it lasts for a good amount of time. It's not as long lasting as the original, but definitely is one of the longer lasting Paris Corner fragrances in my collection. And the other way that this especially excels is at the projection. It projects really nicely for the first maybe about 2 hours, maybe slightly over the 2-hour mark. So Virilis, I think, is for those of you who are looking for an alternative to Le Mans Elixir rather than going for a straight up clone. The next fragrance that I've included in today's video comes from the brand of Arabiyat Prestige, and it's called Portrait Oud. And this one is again sort of inspired by feeling a bit like a clone, but at the same time feeling like it's doing its own thing. The inspiration for Portrait Oud has been Alexandria 2 from Xerjoff. And again, just like Virilis, especially in the opening, this feels quite a bit different to Alexandria 2, but at the same time, somewhere in the background, you'll immediately pick up the vibes of Alexandria 2. Now, the original fragrance is a really nice, it's one of the most popular fragrances from the brand of Xerjoff, and for a good reason. It's an absolutely fantastic, very classy scent that has superb quality and lasts for a very, very long time. It's a pretty beastly performing scent. Portrait Oud, the way it's different is, to my nose especially, that it feels a little bit more floral, lacks a bit of that woodiness and a bit of the depth of Alexandria 2 in the opening, and also this feels, at least I personally pick up kind of a soapy vibes out of it, which makes the whole scent maybe a little bit more feminine compared to the original scent, which in my opinion is perfectly unisex. But on the dry down, this gets quite close to to Alexandria 2, and also after some maceration, also this actually became closer to the original fragrance than I initially was smelling it to be. Good quality, in fact, very good quality, just like we'll get with any other fragrance from the brand of of Arabiyat Prestige. Price is a little bit higher, but that tends to be the case with all Arabiyat Prestige scents. Performance is good, not on par with the original. Again, the original is very beastly, but this still lasts for a good amount of time and also projects nicely. So if you're looking again for an alternative to Alexandria 2 from Xerjoff, then I think Portrait Oud from Arabiyat Prestige definitely deserves to be checked out. Continuing on with the theme of fragrances that are inspired by some original scents, but at the same time are, they feel like they're doing a little bit of its own thing. The next one comes from the brand of Armaf, and it's called Odyssey Homme. This is the original, member, the first member of the Odyssey line of fragrances, and this was one of the very first scents that I ever reviewed on my channel. This particular one is inspired by Noir Extreme from Tom Ford, but again, it feels more like an inspiration. It doesn't feel like a straight up clone. It lacks a bit of the sweetness and a bit of the darkness of the original fragrance from Tom Ford. This feels a little bit more powdery, slightly more fresh, slightly more airy, but it's a great fragrance, and in fact to this day this remains one of my most favorite Armaf scents. Again, it has the vibes of a Noir Extreme, but also adds a bit of powderness on top of that. And initially, when this came out a few years ago, a lot of people were comparing this to Dior Homme Intense, saying that this was a clone of Dior Homme Intense, which is not the case. If you're not familiar with this fragrance, just don't pick it up or try to get it if you're looking for an Dior Homme Intense clone. This is not that. Okay, so I'm done with the inspirations, things that feel similar to original scents but not exactly. Now let's move on to some straight up clones. The next one that I've included in today's video comes from the brand of Zimaya, and it's called Wujood, and this fragrance is a clone of Rosendo Mateu No. 5. And this feels like a straight up clone, although again it's not identical to the original scent, but definitely smells quite similar. Just like the original scent, Wujood relies on a lot of vanillic sweetness. It relies on a hefty dose of some suede leather. You also get some incense somewhere in the background, and it's a very nice combination. And again, especially in the air, smells quite similar to to Rosendo Mateu No. 5. Not identical, but very similar. This can also serve as an alternative to YSL's Baby Cat. Now, it's not very close to Baby Cat, but it's done in a similar style, and it's very, very cheap. The impressive things about Wujood are that it has a very strong performance, it has a very decent quality, and smells very similar to to Rosendo Mateu No. 5. And I think this is one of the best cheaper fragrances that you can get out of the brand of Zimaya. The next fragrance that I've included in today's video, and definitely feels like a straight up clone, comes from the brand of Fragrance World, and it's called King. This one is a clone of Narcosis from Virtus. And again, this is more like a straight up clone rather than something that's been inspired by. Now, if you have never tried the original fragrance, it's a very interesting. First of all, the house, the brand itself is a a niche brand, and definitely King from Fragrance World smells quite niche. It's a very interesting mix. It has a lot of interesting notes. It has the note of rhubarb, which is you don't see very often in fragrances. It has a coffee note. You'll get some citrusy freshness. You'll get quite a bit of a fruitiness. There's some mango. There's some peach, there's some ambergris, there's some ginger, some amber sweetness. It's a very, very interesting mix. The opening can be a bit challenging for some people. It's a bit on the spicy side. It feels sweet, slightly fresh, and definitely quite a bit spicy. And then on the dry down, it becomes quite sweet and fruity. Again, a very, very interesting mix. Not a very easy to wear fragrance. Definitely not a lot of people will like this one, but the quality of the scent from Fragrance World is actually really nice, and it smells quite niche. Performance is not superb, but still definitely above average. Projection is quite nice, and also comes really uniquely packaged. You get a pack of cards included into the whole the whole box, and all around this is a very, very interesting scent, definitely worthy of being checked out. Maybe not safe for blind buy, but definitely something that you have to experience just to see if you are going to like it or not. And the last fragrance that I included in today's video comes from the brand of Maison Alhambra, and it's called Dark Door Intense. And as you can probably guess, this fragrance is a clone of Dior Homme Intense, and this actually smells very, very pleasant, and as a scent on its own, actually smells very, very close to the original fragrance. I have quite a few clones of Dior Homme Intense because it's one of my most favorite fragrances all time, and I've been collecting clones of it, and this is one of those clones that get very, very close to the scent of the original fragrance, and it smells very nice in the air, and I really like it a lot. Qualities of the scent is good. The scent itself is super close to the original fragrance, and it's also quite cheap as well. And there's only one problem with Dark Door Intense, and that's the performance, especially the projection. Total longevity, at least on my skin, even after more than half a year of maceration, has been about 6.5 hours. So It just does not last very long on my skin, but the bigger problem lies with the projection, because this is a very intimate type of scent. It just does not project, good. That's the only problem with this fragrance. If this scent, this fragrance had better performance, definitely it would have been a contender for the best cologne of Dior Homme Intense. But simply because of the lack of performance, I have other colognes in my collection that I like more. So guys, in today's video I showed you 6 random good colognes and cheap fragrances from my collection. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like. And I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.